and welcome back to Conspiracy Cats. Now, if you weren't aware, this week really is the Flat Earth International Conference happening in Dallas in America, and two of my favourite creators, MC Toon and Team Skeptic, are over there letting me know how things are unfolding. Now, apparently, right now, Mark Sargent is on stage putting his numerical skills to the test to show the world that he really is quite clever. And apparently it's getting quite tense. Let's take a peek.
1, 2.
Well done, Mark. I am very impressed. Now, we're going to keep checking in on Mark as the episode goes on. But for now, sadly, it's time for this. The first Conspiracy Cats apology of the week. Or ever. Yes, I do owe a genuine apology to this man.
I have proof right next to me that gravity does not exist. Basically, it's a tap running.
Now, this man goes by the name of Seek Truth and Speak Truth, and I have used that clip in a couple of videos now, but most recently in this week's episode of Flat Earth Friday on Simon Dan's channel. Now, that episode of Flat Earth Friday was filmed before I filmed this video, which was a video response to Seek Truth and Speak Truth for my Baldy channel. I've linked it in the description. It's probably my favourite Flat Earth busting video that I've done. Now, anybody who's seen that video and stuck around in the comments section will know that Seek Truth and Speak Truth is now very sceptical about his Flat Earth claims. And I will not be using any more of his clips in future going forward. And I do apologise if it appears that when that video came out on Simon Dan's channel that maybe I misrepresented you a little bit. But it was just a case that that video was recorded before you made the comments on my channel. So I do apologise for that, and I do hope to get you on my channel in future. Anyway, I feel better now. What do you think of that, Trish?
You're a man of your word. Here you are, and you're saying sorry, just like you said you would.
Yeah, thanks. And it's probably time to move on.
You, from the time I've known you, have been a good man.
Okay, let's not milk it. I wonder how Mark Sargent's getting on.
2 times 2 equals 4.
He's good, isn't he? Anyway, this week we are going to be looking at artificial horizons on a plane. We're going to be looking at entropy in the atmosphere. We're going to be looking at gravity and much more. But not until we've looked at the most irritating flat earth moment of my week. The most irritating flat earth moment of the week. And this week's most irritating moment is brought to you by this guy.
What's up, Conspiracy Cats?
You know, I have no idea why he does that. Anyway, this week, Red Pill Philosophy was gloating as he mirrored a video from another flat earther called Wakey Wakey. Just listen to what Red Pill said in the introduction.
A famous astrophysicist unwittingly walks into an interview with a flat earther and rage quits within an hour.
So this is Dr. Bergagina, and I have given up trying to pronounce that properly. Correct me in the comment sections. Anyway, Wakey Wakey was on holiday in Freiburg when he realised that Dr. Bergagina was also there doing some important work.
And I found out one of the world's top astrophysicists, Dr. Bergagina, was here.
So Flat Earth sensation Wakey Wakey decided he wanted to interview Dr. Bergagina. So how do you think he went about it?
I wanted to interview her, but how? I thought about it and I created an alias, David Howard from Oxford University Media Society, and created some online material supporting this front.
Of course, we all guessed it, he just outright lied, and then he proceeded to waste the next 60 minutes of Dr. Bergagina's life with nonsense like this.
Gravity is strong enough to hold boats and cargo and cars to a spinning ball, but yet it's not strong enough to pull the butterfly down or these small areas of these dead flowers. How would you answer that?
Now, I've got no PhD in astrobiology, but let's see if we can answer your question, Wakey Wakey. Now, gravity is a force between two objects, not just a singular force exerted by the Earth alone. The larger the mass of the object being pulled to the Earth, represented by m2 in this equation, the larger the force applied to it. So essentially, the ocean has a larger force attracting it to the Earth than a butterfly does. Plus, a butterfly has wings. Anyway, I will be taking Wakey Wakey's entire interview and dissecting it on the Baldy channel soon. But until then, Red Pill Philosophy, you seem to think it was quite funny that this guy was wasting somebody's time with ridiculous questions. So while you're here, do you want to waste any of my time with a silly question?
How do homesteaders kill their chickens?
I don't know. Maybe they just bore them to death showing them one of your videos. Anyway, goodbye. So now time for the main part of today's video, and this week we're going to be debunking someone who popped up in my comment section. So Roll chat box travels.
Chemtrails on Earth, chemtrails on Venus, they come out of the plane and out of your...
Okay, now more about that song at the end of the video, but first of all, let's introduce this week's Shakespearean-like talent.
Hello, my name's Steve Forster. Anyway, I've just popped by to leave you this really long message, but we ain't going to read it all, because the important bit comes right at the end. Look at this. You are a liar. You lie to children. You must teach science, not pseudoscience.
Now, when I got that comment, I was going to ignore it, but then I just started thinking, you know, I've been told that I lie to children just one too many times now.
You lie to kids on a daily basis, Baldy.
Shut up, Fred.
Baldy. My name is Baldy. My name is Baldy. My name is Dread.
Still sounds like Fred to me.
Dread.
Anyway, back to teachers. Teachers have an unbelievably stressful job. And the amount of unpaid hours they put in before schools, during the dinner times and breaks, and after school to put on revision and intervention, just to help the young people they're working with, to me is truly impressive. So when a self-proclaimed YouTube scientist comes along who thinks they now have a better understanding of the laws of physics than Einstein just because they've watched a couple of scientifically illiterate YouTube videos, it is very frustrating when that person then starts accusing teachers of being outright liars. So let's turn the tables today, and now let's learn some science, not pseudoscience, from Mr. Forster. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to learn science, not pseudoscience, with Steve Forster.
But this weight is space weight.
So please, Mr. Forster, if I'm a liar who teaches pseudoscience, please educate us all on what I'm getting wrong.
Okay, so first up in this lesson, I'm going to insult you again. I'm going to call you a dope, and then I'm going to tell you that the real science is that light is not a photon.
Okay, so are we now going to get a lesson perhaps in advanced quantum physics or the propagation of electromagnetic waves? What evidence have you got to back up your claim that light isn't a photon?
Oh, you want evidence, dear? Well, that's no problem. I've got bags of it. Your lucky day. So, basically, if I take a picture of the sun and light is made of photons, then I'd have loads of photons in my camera that I'd have to dispense with. Ha ha!
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Science.
Yeah, I know. Steve, what was it you told me earlier? Remember, cats, teach science, not pseudoscience. Now, Mr. Forster, I think you might just be a little bit wrong on that one. Are you sure you're not wrong?
No, I'm not wrong at all, and I'm not confused. I'm going to double down on that, right? I definitely would have photons that I have to empty out of my camera because I've heard somewhere that light is a field. I didn't understand what that meant, but it definitely means it's not photons.
Unbelievable. You know, I really can't even begin to explain where he might have got that idea from. Kat, can you?
Yeah, maybe he's read something like this online, and when he's been scanning through for words that he recognises, he's recognised the word field. But of course, things are a little bit more complicated than that, so I'm going to just politely direct everyone to this, my favourite Baldy Catz video of all time. I've linked it in the description. That should clear things up for you, Mr. Forster.
Anyway, our science lesson continues at the very capable hands of Mr. Forster, who this time has sent me a flat earth no punctuation challenge. Now, if you're not familiar with these, this is where a flat earther sends me a comment with no punctuation in to see if I can read it from start to finish without running out of breath. Here we go.
Okay, we go. Anyway, before I start, I have put punctuation here. I put 3 full stops in it. I just put them all in the same place. Anyway, here we go. The sun spins above us on an ellipse going around like the arms on the face of a clock being on the outside of the arms would spend. You faster yet still appear to go around. Full stop, full stop, full stop. It takes 1 complete year, sir.
My word. How's Mark Sargent getting along?
3 times 3 equals 9.
He is getting so good. Anyway, it only continues to get worse for Mr. Forster, who then sends me this that I can only describe as an impossible no punctuation challenge. Try it yourself. See if you can do better than me.
Okay, you want a challenge? I've got a challenge for you now. This is it. The greatest no punctuation nonsense comment challenge of all time. People at home, feel free to pause it and see if you can do better than cats. But cats, off you go. So, does gravity make hot things go to warm or make cold things go to warm? No, just like why do things fall? Definitely not because of gravity, they're just finding the relative density. That's why things float, fly or sink or find somewhere in between. It's because of their relative density. Don't be fooled by the misconception of gravity. Gravity works on the mass of an object of a pebble being much smaller than... Bollocks.
Now, if there was any thought process behind that comment at all I can imagine was he was trying to think of a way to say this.
Gravity is strong enough to hold boats and cargo and cars to a spinning ball, but yet it's not strong enough to pull the butterfly down or these small areas of these dead flowers. How would you answer that?
But we've already dealt with that. Next comment.
Okay, I'm back with another long one, but don't worry, I'm not going to make you read this all out. My point of this one is basically, how can planes fly when they have a gyroscope in their artificial horizon? Because if it flew all the way around the globe, it would flip upside down. Try it yourself.
So instead of teaching, Mr. Forster is now asking questions, and he wants to know why when a plane goes over the curvature of the Earth, does that not affect the gyroscope inside the artificial horizon? Remember, a gyroscope is supposed to maintain a fixed position in space. Well, I've taken this clip from the channel trailer that's on my Baldy catz channel. Hopefully this will explain it for him. So welcome to the inside of the artificial horizon. These arrows here are pointing to the pendulous vanes, and that metal canister is what contains a gyroscope. Now these pendulous vanes, very much like a pendulum, are free to swing, and as such always point towards the centre of the Earth. As the plane goes over the curvature of the Earth, there will be a change in the relative position of the pendulous vanes and the canister. But as we can see here, that causes little slits or air holes to become exposed. But in the artificial horizon, when one air hole is more open, an air hole 180 degrees from that becomes more closed, and this causes an imbalance in the airflow coming out the air holes, which creates a force. And because this is a gyroscope, the effect of that force is seen at 90 degrees from the application of the force, causing the gyroscope to right itself and become level again. Now, I do believe that these days there are also electronic methods of correcting the artificial horizon on a plane, but I don't know much about that, so if you do, help me out in the comment section. But for now, let's see how Mark Sargent is getting on. I do believe he's finished showing off his math skills, and he's now showing off his spelling skills.
Torr. T-O-R-R.
Well done, Mark.
Alright, here I am, just one last one. The vacuum of space is 10 to the negative 17 torr. Now, let me just show you how ridiculously confused I am about what that number means. You ready? That, my friend, is some serious pressure. Told you. Next to a gas, entropy would happen. Yeah, it wouldn't increase or decrease, it would just happen. With the second law of thermodynamics. Gas is not a negative pressure, a vacuum is. Right, okay. Why do you ignore the fact it's a total violation of my completely made up laws?
Remember, cats, teach science, not pseudoscience. Let's examine that one point at a time, shall we? Starting here.
The vacuum of space is 10 to the negative 17 torr, and that, my friend, is some serious pressure.
Okay, well, given that 1 torr is actually just a fraction of 1 atmosphere of pressure, then 10 to the minus 17 torr is actually this many atmospheres. In other words, virtually 0.
Oh, no.
Next to a gas, entropy would happen with the second law of thermodynamics.
Now, the very fact he's using the term here, entropy would happen, tells me he has no idea what he's talking about. That's like me referring to somebody growing as saying size would happen. Entropy either increases or decreases. Now, I've done a video on this in detail on the Baldy catz channel, but essentially entropy can be explained as an increase in the number of possible microstates, or, to boil it down further, the spreading out of energy. Now, I've taken a short clip from that video I've just mentioned, and by the way, all the videos I mentioned today are linked in the description. This clip explains how entropy does increase as heat travels through the atmosphere. Enjoy. We all know that the Earth's source of energy is the sun, and the Earth absorbs high-frequency, short-wavelength, high-energy photons from the sun. Now, much of this energy, after being absorbed by the Earth, is then re-emitted by the Earth back into space. But when it's emitted back into space, it's emitted as lower frequency, longer wavelength, lower energy photons, which means more photons are emitted than are absorbed. Now, this perfectly complies with the definition of an increase in entropy. You can think of that same amount of energy being dispersed into a higher number of photons. Now, what we should also remember is that the atmosphere also plays a role in this. As those photons are emitted from Earth, they are also absorbed by different layers of the atmosphere and then re-emitted again by those different layers of the atmosphere, again as more lower energy photons. Now, what I will add to that is that any gas particles that have made it so high that they are on the edge of space, if you like, have done so much work against gravity to get there, and they have radiated off so much energy as heat, that they have hardly any energy left. In fact, very few particles are even capable of making it that high. So when we have this layer of atmosphere next to the vacuum of space, we have very few particles with very little energy. Which is why the whole flat Earth argument of having a high pressure right next to the vacuum of space without a membrane is just a ridiculous argument. Anyway, next point.
Gas isn't a negative pressure, a vacuum is.
Now, we've been through this before with this guy.
You might be saying, that guy. Why would they even invent gravity then? Why is there mass? What is this shit about mass?
And he even wrote a song about it.
Atmospheric.
But essentially, when we are talking about absolute pressure, then a vacuum is zero, not negative. In fact, it can't be negative. Absolute negative pressure doesn't exist. When we're talking about vacuum pressure as a relative term, meaning less than the atmospheric pressure, then yeah, we can call it negative, but it is still a positive absolute pressure. Absolute negative pressure just does not exist. It is not a thing.
So go on then, why do you ignore the fact that it's obviously a total violation of a natural law?
And that right there is the problem with flat earthers. They do not understand the physics they're talking about. So they will take the laws of physics and they will morph them and change them into a version that they do understand. And then they will whinge, they will moan, and they will cry foul when the world around them doesn't comport to their own twisted, made-up laws of physics. And this guy is a perfect example. Anyway, let's check back in on Mark Sargent. I believe things are going so well for him at the minute that he can literally say anything and have the crowd eating out the palm of his hand.
My car has a license plate.
Right, one last message from Mr. Forster is all I can take.
Yeah, well, you know what, Catz, I'm coming back with another comment, and the best thing about this comment is you can see I've edited it. Yeah, that means that I've actually looked at what I wrote before, decided it wasn't good enough, changed it, and preferred this, yeah. So I've actually put double thought into this comment. Anyway, try and create a vacuum and see how much pressure it takes, and tell me that's not strong again. You don't know what you're talking about. If you don't, Make Busters even had an episode where they took household vacuums and lifted a car.
Now, I really shouldn't have to be explaining something so simple to the genius that is Mr. Forster, but here we go. So under normal conditions, the car you're talking about is experiencing something like this. All those blue circles represent air particles which are colliding off the car, causing the pressure that you're talking about. Now, this pressure is going to be applied evenly on all sides of the car, so the forces, if you like, are balanced and the car's not going to go anywhere. But when you create a vacuum on the top of the car, these forces are no longer balanced. There is a far greater force from the air pushing the car up. So now the car is pushed upwards. It's not pulled up by the vacuum, because a vacuum is a lack of air. It's a lack of collisions. It's not a thing that creates a force or has its own energy. It's a lack of substance, not a presence of it. Right, now my advice to you, Mr. Forster, is before you start posting on people's channels and calling them liars, make sure you've got at least a basic understanding of the physics concepts you're trying to discuss. That would be really, really helpful. Anyway, let's end with this. The single most stupid, yet widely repeated flat earth argument of the week, or year, or ever. Now, some flat earth arguments are just so stupid that I literally have to stand back and just admire the sheer bravado of the people who are able to deliver those arguments with such a straight face. This is going to mark the beginning of a new segment where I take ridiculous flat earth arguments and show how multiple channels are repeating that same ridiculous argument. So let's begin by introducing today's team, starting with this guy.
Don't mock.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're a bit late for that. Let's introduce the Globe Father. Next up is a funky, mysterious new guy on the scene. He won't show us his face, so we just call him the Notebook. And finally, we have family favourite, Johnny Bravo. Now, for those people in the comments section that always whinge about me never playing the guitar, that's all you're getting. Anyway, our team is assembled, so let's watch them in action.
Hello, everybody. I call this video the simplest, irrefutable flat earth proof.
Here is full proof. You can prove yourself that the earth is fucking flat.
The earth is definitely flat. I'll show you.
So they all begin by confidently telling us that they can prove the flat earth. Interesting.
You see the globe. Now consider an airplane.
If you have an airplane up here.
Right, so far we've got two aeroplanes, a toy aeroplane and a drawing of an aeroplane. Johnny, what are you going to use to prove the earth is flat?
This toenail clipper.
Can we not just pretend it's a plane for the sake of consistency?
Let's call it a car.
Right, a car it is then. Crack on, team.
Now I'm going down into South America, continuing to dip down, and finally I get down here to Antarctica. And look at that. My airplane is upside down.
And that same airplane is down here. If you're at the top of the Earth and that airplane was to flip upside down, what's going to happen? Anybody that's in that airplane is going to fall to the ceiling of the fucking airplane when it flips.
Earth is round, right? So the car, it's fine up here because it's kind of flat, right? So it's just going, and it would go faster and faster until the curve isn't there anymore. It's not going straight down. It's falling off. You would die.
Well, I think we all knew that was coming.
You cannot refute that.
Well, I don't know about that. Whoa, 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 stop. Not today. Today we're going to play out with a different tune. You see, not so long ago, I received this message. Now, Girls Bike are a band that are in the process of recording a series of Conspiracy Cat songs that we can put on Spotify for you to listen to for free. We're going to play out with their version of the Chemtrail song, or at least half of it. But what I really want to say is they have just finished recording a Christmas song, which I really, really, really would love to get trending on Twitter. It's a Christmas song about the 15 degree per hour drift. It's a Christmas song about Ranty's P1000. It's an anti-flat earth Christmas song, which I think is going to be great. We are filming the video next week, and I'm just putting this out there. If you don't follow me on Twitter, then my Twitter link is in the description. And when I start tweeting this out with the appropriate hashtags, it would be amazing if as a community we could get an anti-flat earth song trending on Twitter. Take it away, Girls Bike.
Went to the shops to buy some pie. What did I see up in the sky?